I'm Andy Geeter, Vice President of Enrollment Management at Andrew College. Thanks for joining me for part 3 of our financial aid session. This is on federal, state, and institutional programs. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Okay. Now, aid typically comes in one of 4 sources: federal aid, state aid, institutional aid, or what we call outside scholarships. For students throughout the United States, the biggest source of aid is typically the federal government. For our students, the largest source of aid is typically the institution. Now, these award amounts are for 21-22. We have heard that there is going to be a Pell increase by $400 to $68.95 for the Pell Grant for next year as the maximum. Now, the Pell Grant is done on a sliding scale. So a student with a 0 expected family contribution will receive the maximum Pell, which again is supposed to be $4,895 for next year. If a student has an EFC of, say, $3,000, they might receive a Pell Grant of $3,000. If they have a EFC of $6,000, they may receive a Pell Grant of $100. So it slides depending upon the student's EFC and goes away typically after about $6,000. There is talk of expanding the Pell Grant. There's been discussion in Washington of doubling the Pell Grant. That is something that is an ongoing conversation. It has not been done. And again, the thought is that probably that additional $400 for next year may be step 1 in that. As I mentioned back in part 1, we do have a federal work-study program here. We have an institutional limit of about $1,100 per student. If we get into the spring semester, if we find we have additional money, then we may allow some students who can and want to handle additional hours to have additional hours. Now, typically, the Federal College Work Study Program is serving somewhere on our campus in a position. Again, it may be with financial aid, the registrar's office, student life, athletics, a number of different places. There are also a couple of students who do things like tutoring off campus as part of the federal work study program. As I mentioned earlier as well, we do have our own work program, typically for students who are doing tutoring. And again, that is separate from our federal college work study program. If your student's interested in federal college work study, then there's an application form in the financial aid section of our website that they will need to fill out. That's an institutional work form. In that way, our financial aid folks can start to match a student to jobs or job categories. We also offer the SEOG grant, the Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant. That is a federal grant. Typically, it's awarded to students that are the neediest. Normally, that means they'll have a 0 EFC. Sometimes they'll have some sort of family situation. The amount of money we have to award with this program is pretty small. So because of that, we set an $800 per student limit on it. Students are eligible for subsidized and unsubsidized Stafford loans as a freshman up to $5,500. Up to $3,500 of that may be subsidized if it is being used to make up a part of a student's financial need. But the other $2,000 will always be unsubsidized. And the difference is that a subsidized loan, the interest is paid by the government until the student graduates or is out of school for 6 months. With an unsubsidized loan, the interest does accrue while a student is in school. Typically, maybe $90 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. Parents can also receive the federal PLUS loan. PLUS loan stands for loan to undergraduate. PLUS loan to undergraduate students. It can be taken out for any amount up to the total cost of attendance minus other aid received. Parent loan for undergraduate students. I'm sorry, I misspoke earlier. With the parent loan, there is a credit check to it. So if a parent passes a credit check, then they'll be able to take out the amount of money they're requesting. If they do not pass the credit check, then one of three things can happen. Either that parent can ask, say, the other parent to try for the PLUS loan in hopes that maybe they are able to receive it. The parent may go and obtain a cosigner. Typically, this may be a grandparent, aunt, someone very close to the family, who it's just as though you were co-signing for a car note or co-signing for a mortgage. The third option is the student could receive up to $4,000 in an additional unsubsidized Stafford loan. So those three options are available. There's also, as I mentioned before, there are also alternative loans, whether it's through Sallie Mae or through your own bank. I will tell you that in terms of interest rate, you may or may not get a better interest rate going through your bank or through Sallie Mae. I can tell you that typically when there have been federal things going on, like stoppages of repayment to loan programs, that is included PLUS because it's a federal program. It is not included Sallie Mae or other alternative loans because they are not federal loans. So that may or may not factor into your decision making there. For the state of Georgia, students may be eligible to receive a Zell Miller scholarship if they have at least a 3.7 or higher GPA and have a 1200 or higher SAT or a 26 or higher ACT. Now, these are taken in one sitting. They're not what we refer to as being super scored. And that ACT 26 would be a composite of at least 26. That pays $5,616 per year. Students who fall below the Zell Miller qualifications but still have a 3.0 or higher GPA may be eligible for the Hope Scholarship, and that is $4,304 per year. Now, one note about both of these programs: the decision about whether or not a student is eligible for Hope or eligible for the Zell Miller Scholarship is not made by Andrew College. It is made by the Georgia Student Finance Commission. So a school will submit a final list with GPAs of students. Usually comes in by the end of June. Georgia Student Finance will do a final calculation to determine whether or not a student is eligible for Hope or Zell, or eligible for either one of the programs. A student can get an idea now by going into the Georgia Futures account, clicking on Hope Scholarship. If there's a GPA there, that typically means that they're initially being considered for the Hope Scholarship. If there's not anything there, then typically that means that they are not, or that the school did not submit their initial transcript when they were supposed to in late January or early February. There's also whether or not a student is eligible for Hope or Zell Miller, or neither one. They may still receive the Georgia Tuition Equalization Grant. That is $850 per year, and it is for Georgia residents who are attending a private college in the state of Georgia. This is the best deal going. This is the Student Access Loan. This is a 1% interest loan for Georgia students. Borrow up to $8,000 as long as there's remaining financial need. There's no credit check. The loan is in the student's name. There's information about it on the Georgia Futures website, gafutures.org, under state grant, I believe it's state scholarship and loan programs. In order to receive the SAL loan, a student must have completed the financial aid process, and they must accept Stafford loans. They don't have to accept a PLUS loan. They do have to accept Stafford loans because this is kind of a last dollar loan program. Now, this money is awarded through an appropriation from the state legislature every year. As a consequence, when the money runs out, it runs out. They don't always tell us when the application is going to open. Generally, it opens somewhere between the end of April and the middle of May. Once they give out the awards, it closes. If they have money to give in December, it'll open up in December for a short period. They don't tell us when it opens. They don't tell us when it closes. They will, however, once a student goes through the process, they will send that student paperwork at the email address that they indicated. The student will have a certain amount of time, typically 10 days to 2 weeks, to complete that paperwork and send it back in. If they do not do this, I cannot stress this enough, if they do not do this, the state of Georgia will cancel that loan. Every year we have situations where someone is approved to receive the Zell loan, we put on their financial aid package, then lo and behold, in September, or they don't have it. So they get hit with an additional bill. Now, sometimes the financial aid office is able to reinitiate the loan if there's money available. Sometimes they are not. So again, very important. They will send information, make sure it is sent back. There's also a monthly keep in touch payment. Generally, it's $10. This must be paid. If this is not paid for the fall, a student cannot receive the loan for the spring until they are current on those KID payments. At Andrew College, we offer what we refer to as primary scholarships and secondary scholarships. Typically, a student can only receive one primary scholarship, and that may be the Pitt Scholarship, which actually we've already had our competition for this year. We award 2 full room, board, and tuition scholarships. As a result of that competition, we also award 2 full tuition scholarships as well. Now, separate from that, we have our primary scholarships and grants. We have academic scholarships, which start at about $6,000. Generally, a student will have to have at least a 2.5 to be considered for those. We have our Andrew Serve Scholarship, which typically is a 3.0 or higher GPA. And community involvement. Those scholarships are $9,500 per year. Partial athletic scholarships, those vary in award amount. If a student is interested in an athletic scholarship, they do need to make sure that they're being recruited by the coaches. If they have not heard from the coaches, then they can go on to our athletic website. There's a link to it from, or the athletic page of our website. There's a link to it from our homepage. Find the coach and email the coach. Normally there's a form that I recommend that you do, but at this point, particularly if you're a senior, you need to go ahead and communicate with that coach directly right now. We also offer Tiger grants. Typically these are need-based grants. And there's also a nursing scholarship called the Lady Pink Whitehead Scholarship. Now, what we try to do is find the primary award that works best for you. So for example, if the Lady Pate White, if you want to do nursing, if the Lady Pate Whitehead Scholarship is $5,000 per year, but you're eligible for a Tiger grant of $8,000 per year, we would rather you have the Tiger grant for $8,000 per year than the Lady Pate Whitehead Scholarship for $5,000 per year. Again, we're trying to do the best we can to make college as affordable as possible for you. Occasionally we run into a situation with this with an athlete where the coach has offered an athletic scholarship that would actually receive more money through a grant. In that situation, we typically award them the grant unless the student just wants the cachet of an athletic scholarship. Now, aside from these primary scholarships, we also offer a number of secondary scholarships. The reason these are called secondary scholarships is they can be combined with other awards. They can be combined with a primary scholarship. We have our Andrew College Digital Network and publications. The scholarship is up to $1,500 per year. It is typically working with Andrew College Digital Network, which is our streaming service. It's primarily ball games. And then also publications with our yearbook. We offer Offer fine and performing arts scholarships in art, theater, and music from $1,000 to $5,000. Those are based upon an audition. Audition dates are available now. A student who's interested would need to go to scholarships, which is in the financial aid section, and then competitive scholarships to find out more about those, and also to register for an audition. United Methodist scholarships, if a student is United Methodist, they need to supply a letter to us from their pastor or youth minister attesting to their membership and involvement in the church, and that's up to $1,500 per year. We also offer a scholarship for children and grandchildren, and actually great-grandchildren of Andrew College alums, and that's up to $1,000 per year. And again, these can be combined with other awards. We also offer what we call Andrew Serves Light, which is a smaller version of the Andrew Serves Scholarship. It's $1,500 per year. Instead of a 60 semester hour community service requirement, it has a 30 semester hour community service requirement. Outside scholarships. Now is probably too late for most outside scholarships for this year, though there may be a few that are still available. Places you can search, the two that I would recommend the most would actually be the two toward the bottom. The Big Futures is kind of the big College Board one. And then also Georgia Futures has its own scholarship search. The other two, there are a lot of scholarship opportunities there. Those tend to be a little bit more national or regional. Your counselor's office, if you're a high school student, is a good place to check. As I said, a lot of those scholarships, like Kiwanis Club and things like that, the deadlines have already passed because they're getting ready for awards nights. There may be a few still out there. I would contact the counselor's office on Monday and chat with them about it. You may also want to look for parents and students both. May want to look at some other local scholarship areas. Does your company offer a scholarship? Does a club that you belong to offer a scholarship? Are you a member of a union that offers a scholarship? Are there different, are there different organizations that maybe you belong to that offer scholarships? And check with those folks. A lot of times, company-wide, a lot of times the HR office will have information about that. Okay. Once you've received notification that your financial aid is done, you'll actually get information in the mail, but a student can also check their Empower account. So if they go to the front page of our website down at the bottom, they'll see a link for Empower. They'll click there. It'll take you through your putting in the username and password. Go to the Financials tab. There'll be a drop down. If you see the drop down for 22-23, that means it's ready. And you can go from there, accept your award in part or in whole. Now, once you've done that, if you haven't paid your enrollment decision deposit, this needs to be done. It's $100 for commuting students, $150 for residential students, or it can be added to your student account. There's also the enrollment decision form that you're sent with your acceptance letter, plus the other forms, the health form and the commuting residential form as well. This summer, students who are receiving Stafford loans will need to complete the interest loan counseling and the master promissory note at studentloans.gov. You will need your FSA ID for that. This should be done by the student. If the parent is taking out a PLUS loan, then there's also a master promissory note that they will need to complete, and they will need their FSA ID for that. And again, you'll be able to do that during the summer from studentloans.gov. If you have questions, studentaid.gov has a lot of good information. That is the general federal website. You can also call 1-800-4FED-AID for information about programs or help with the FAFSA. If you do need help with the FAFSA, there's also there's internal help as you're doing the FAFSA that's actually pretty good. If you just want a step-by-step run through of the FAFSA, that's available on YouTube. We've also put it out several times in our student parent newsletters and also emails to students. It's a 2022-2023 federal walkthrough that's done by an organization in Utah, but since it's a federal form, that's fine. And they have it available in both English and in Spanish. You can also contact the Andrew College Financial Aid Office. I will tell you the best way to get in touch with financial aid is through email. The reason being that emails can be gathered, you can gather up the information and then respond back to the email. Whereas if it's a phone call, unless it's something very, very general, it's probably going to necessitate at least 2 phone calls. And it kind of breaks up the workday as well. So we prefer that you email. If you do call and you have to leave a message, please do that. Every year we hear from people who say, I've been trying to reach financial aid for 3 weeks and I can't get a hold of them. I'll ask, are you leaving a message? And they'll say no. Financial aid doesn't know to call you back. So if you do call and have to leave a message, please make sure you leave your number, your name, and your student's name as well. Same thing if you're emailing financial aid, please let them know the student's name, your name, and as much detail as you can provide regarding your question. Don't make your email, please call me. And that way they can handle things as efficiently as possible for the most amount of people. Because it is a 2-person office, and we want to make sure that we're able to serve everyone as best we can. So if you do have questions, you can email financialaid@andrewcollege.edu. You're also welcome to email me at andygeeter@andrewcollege.edu or admissions with an S at andrewcollege.edu. All right. Thank you for being a part of the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And we look forward to seeing you on campus. Take care. Bye-bye.